We've got Jacques here. How's it going, man?
Oh man, it's so good to be with you. And I gotta say, I have always loved your energy. So it is good. I can't wait to see what this discussion has in store for us.
You think I have energy? All right. You haven't met my wife. My wife is out of this world energy. But thanks, man. So, can you tell everyone who doesn't know you what you do, who you are, what you do, all of the things?
Yeah, happy to. All right. Well, my name is Jacques Spitzer. I'm a Scorpio. I don't know why I felt like the need to add that to my formal introduction. I'm the CEO of Raindrop. I'm also a partner in an agency called Marian Gold. Um, Raindrop is the agency I think that people that maybe follow marketing more closely, follow advertising more closely, may have heard of or at least seen our work. We have really become known for work in what's kind of becoming known as the brand formance space, which is a fancy way of saying advertising that marketing that people love that sells in real time direct to the website, but also creates a really great connection to the brand and cover fire for retail as well. We're fortunate enough, like right now, we work with some incredible brands. We're working with Boom, Ezra Firestone's company, and we're working with the Ridge, the very, very, very talented. No, seriously, the very talented people at the Ridge. I joke because you're obviously there, but holy smokes! I mean, what a team Ridge has. There's not a single person I haven't met there that I've been really impressed by. We came onto the scene because we started working with Dr. Squatch when they were doing only $3 million in sales, and having a front row seat to how content and brand can drive them now, and they're doing hundreds of millions. That's been amazing. And so we do just incredible fun work with really great brands. We're working with Native right now and Lumi. So I keep name dropping all these brands, but it's like we really get to do the type of marketing that honestly I pinch myself that we get to do, and that is creating ads that are fun, they are clever, they are ads that people say, "Oh my gosh, I love this ad," instead of like "ew ads." And so we do it through photography, video. We do organic social. We're into vertical video creation now, brand development and strategy, even packaging design and website work. So we're really well situated for brands that are looking to just take things to the next level. And I'm happy to be with you today. I can't wait to see what's going to fly. I'm sure that the takes will be hot, and and the guys will be cool. Oh God, I take it back. I take it back already.
No, that was the coolest thing you've ever said, I think.
I
That was,
I liked it. I made it up right now.
it needs
But
to be printed out and put on a wall somewhere, I think.
takes that are hot, takes that are hot, guys that are cool. There you go. Can you please
So
make that the title of the
yeah,
podcast? Okay,
yeah,
so
perfect. All right, it's already done. So why this was a question that came to mind. Why do people come to you for the brand work that you do? Is it because of your style? Is it because of tell me about that?
yeah, I mean, look, when I think about the conversations we're having with various brands, I think the let me put it this way. I'm going to put it through the lens of the best partners we have, right? Because the worst partners we have are the people that they want to hire you and then they want to tell you how to do your job. Never works out well for anyone, right? It's like the best partners we have are the ones that have the self-awareness to say, man, we are really good at X, Y, and Z. And that's what's gotten our brand to where we are. But wouldn't it be great to get some outside perspective and firepower when it comes to people who are thinking and strategizing about our brand? And the illustration that I give a lot of people that are either VPs of brand or CMOs or founders that helps them is, we have, let's say we're kicking off a campaign together and we get a fresh perspective on what's working, what's not. We look at your metrics and your data, understand who's buying, why might they be buying. We've even gotten into putting some pretty robust post-purchase surveys on people's website using a platform called Bestie in order to just understand like where are you at today, what's been working, and then our team goes and concepts all of these different ways that we can take a fresh perspective to breaking through the noise and really taking that brand to the next level in a variety of ways. And when we do that and we take in that information and we take, you know, we take 8 to 10 people and they all go and spend 8 hours a piece, we'll spend 80 hours collectively brainstorming on that brand and then come back and then it's amplified because then we all get back together, we have conversations, we have a round two, come back. It's like 120 hours have been invested into that brand, just thinking about how to break through the noise and make a difference before we've written a single word. And I'm like, that's how you make the difference. And who has the mind power and ability to think about all those things when, like, even you can be the best brands in the world, you can be incredible at what you do, but it's like you only have so much time and energy to think about everything. And so to work with a partner who can take on some of the heavy burden and lifting of that and bring you back ideas and thoughts and strategic ideas to consider, I feel like that's where, like, what people are really looking for from us is like, hey, I'm great, but you make me like a superpower because like a bionic arm to punch through walls because I offload some ideas, some general ideas to you all just go and run with it, come back, and it's like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's go. And my favorite is when brands have the budget and the ability to be like, we love this. Let's do this one, this one, this one, and this one, and let's roll them out, over the course of the year. And you're like, hell yeah, let's go. So that I think that hopefully that answers your question. I think that's where brands find the most value in partnering with us.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And can you go into, I think most people know your work from Dr. Squatch. So can you go into a little bit of detail with your history there with them? And people may have already heard this, so we don't need to spend a ton of time on it, but I would love if you gave a little bit of history there.
Totally. I mean, I think Dr. Squatch is one of those experiences that it's like I think about it from time to time. I actually have a Dr. Squatch coffee mug. It's a limited edition. It was a handmade mug. And every once in a while I'll drink that out and I'll just think about the experience because so many little things happened and fell into place that were really special. I mean, we were introduced to Jacques, the founder at the time. I think he had one employee or so. He was 5 or 6 years into his journey and I think was just really looking for a fresh perspective and a partner that he could have care about his brand like he did. And what was cool about when we walked in, into the relationship with Dr. Squatch is it's like it's a great example of when you have like a marketing theory, but then you see it actually unfold in practice. And what I mean by that is we identified, I remember sitting in our small conference room at the time, and we were like, Jack, we're not selling soap. And he's like, I mean, kind of, yeah. And I was like, no, we're not selling soap. If we're selling soap for $9 a bar, I can go to Costco and for $10 buy a 30 pack. Like, we're not selling soap, right? If we're selling soap, we've already lost the battle. We're selling something so much more. We, at the time, identified it as like making men feel like kings in their own shower, like having this like kind of really fun, truly masculine self-care experience. But I think over time, what we realized even more so was that we were selling joy and we were selling a smile towards products that most people just don't feel anything towards. Most people don't feel anything towards their soap and their shampoo and their lotion and whatever else that they just feel nothing. It's just the product. And so to have something that makes them smile that's a real tangible value. It's like it's a really interesting thing. It's what we've applied to other brands that are doing so well, like the laundry sauce, for example, where it's a $70 box of laundry sauce. It's not detergent, but it is. I mean, it's the same action. It cleans your clothes, but allowing people to take something like laundry detergent that, like, honestly, it's like it's a chore. Who cares? It smells like synthetic, ocean breezes, and they've taken it and they've made it smell as good as like my Centol Le Labo, like 30, like just like beautiful scents that, like, when you experience that and you get out of your shower and you put your face in a towel and the scent's so powerful, it's like you realize you're not just selling detergent anymore, you're selling joy. And I think that's what we found in our experience with Dr. Squatch is we were like, okay, yes, all natural soap can, cure eczema and all of these skin issues, but really it's about joy. And so serendipitously, we actually found the two leading actors through a variety of ways. We found James in a local comedy club We were at a bachelor party that actually I think I had planned. Yeah, I was the best man, so I planned it. And we were at a bachelor party, and we found James in that club, and then my business partner and I were out to drinks together, and I ran into a friend from high school, and he was there waiting tables, which this is a pretty cool story because Mike had shared years later, actually on a podcast, that he was in career transition. He was sharing that he was a little embarrassed to be like, oh, I got like a bioengineering degree, but here I am, like in his mind, like here I am, waiting tables. I'm not going to say hi to Jacques, but he's like, no, I'm gonna say hi to Jacques. Like we hadn't seen each other in 15 plus years, and him saying hi, and I looked at him like, Mike, dude, it's good to see you. Also, like it was registering with me, like all the girls in high school thought he was just like so rugged and handsome, and I'm like, do you want to be in a soap commercial? And he was like, yeah, I mean, why not? And so like literally just the way that we serendipitously found these pieces and these people. Jack, the original founder of Squatch, is an incredible marketer, right? He understood media buying and marketing super well. And so when our team, who like the original team that worked on that, is still very much part of Raindrop. Like Drew, who was at the time, I think the brand manager, is now our creative director. So it's been cool to see how Dr. Squatch, the success of it and the continued success of it has influenced the way that we work with brands, what we believe is possible. I think a lot of brands can't imagine themselves, seeing 100 million, a 200 million, whatever stage you're at. It's hard to imagine the next like stage. It's hard to imagine going from 100 million to a billion. It's hard to imagine. Now, I'll be honest, we've never taken a brand from a billion to 2 billion, but maybe that's next. I don't know. But I would say everyone has those milestones and moments. So yeah, our experience with Dr. Squatch was that we came out with the original like we had a series of ads that we did, and it was decided that we go bigger. We came up with the original long form video. It had its initial run on Facebook, where it did really well. I think it went to like 20 million views and scaled. And then Jack started running it on YouTube. And the reason that it was such a big deal was that when brands can unlock YouTube and unlock a new channel, there's actually a huge audience there, and they actually have their video on. And what we found with YouTube is that people will actually watch these long form videos. Our average watch times can be between 30 and 45 seconds on average, which is compared to like 5 or 6 seconds on Meta. So that's like a huge compounding value. So that was another thing we learned through Squatch is like, I think their biggest video ever was almost 5 minutes long. It did over a 250 million views during the 2020 year. It's the number one performing ad on YouTube that year, which, because 2020 was the best performing year of all media, and it was the best performing ad on all media, it may be the best performing ad of all time, which is a crazy thing to say. But I think it might be just the logic makes sense to me, so I'll claim it.
That's so crazy, man. That's amazing. Yeah, claim that forever. So, thank you for that background. And now
Yeah.
you wanted to talk about three different things, which I was very surprised when you said, hey, like, I want to change what I want to speak on. You wanted to talk about something else that you kind of speak on a lot, and now you're like, hey, this is more relevant. Let's go into this. So, do you want to tackle each individually? How do you want to tackle that?
Hey, it's your show. That's all.
Hey,
I'm telling you, man, it's your show. But I
yeah,
wanted to make sure that if people are going to listen, I wanted to make sure that they enjoy themselves. And I think too, these are the kind of conversations that we're having around, when I go out to dinner with my friends or whatever that are in
yeah,
the entrepreneurial space. These are the conversations we're having. No, as much as I'd like to think that people want to hear me pontificate on marketing theory, I think everyone's also like, but have you used ChatGPT recently? Like, have you
yeah.
done this? Have you done that? And it's like, yeah. What do you think about my dad just texted me today? No joke. My dad texted me 30 minutes before this, and he says, J-Man, we must discuss AI implications for 2023 and beyond. That's my dad. Like, I mean, everyone's talking about it, right?
Okay, that's where we
Yeah.
go though, is from that
Yeah.
text. What are you going to text your dad after we get off this show?
It's interesting because we had a really internally we had, my Andrew Catania, who's our creative director, and I are extremely aligned in where we feel like AI is a tool, where it's headed. And we have other team members who are like maybe more excited about it, maybe even scared of it, like, oh, is it gonna like replace jobs and stuff? And so, I think my initial thought on the role in copywriting, and so it's specific to the marketing industry. I think what's interesting in general is that what I love about AI and what I'm seeing and what I'm seeing from like a Jasper AI, shout out to my friend Austin over there, and what he's building, but is that it is a great tool to like overcome writer's block, to get creative juices flowing, to sort of like accelerate the ability to think and the ability um to like come up with those first round of thoughts. The other thing I'll say though that I think maybe the people miss is that it's sort of like the way that like I'm pretty strongly like I feel pretty strongly about like I don't like focus groups at all. Because I've always felt like, I've only experienced them 3 times, and every time I was just like, oh my gosh, it sucks all the work towards like a lowest common denominator. Like it takes all of the things out of it that makes it break through the noise. It just is more white noise. And so what I do, what I've been doing with my friends is I'll be like, here's how AI, like I've been doing this with my friends, like friends that love AI or want to convince me that like AI is gonna take over the world. What they'll do is they'll say, well, I'm on a like I had a friend who's like, I'm gonna write you a motivational speech that you could give today. And he like for 2023. And so he gives it to me, and it's like incredibly accurate. And it's like there's nothing wrong with it but it's like the way it was composed was like, you are like anything is possible when you focus. And this year you're going to be incredibly focused, you're going to be confident, and you're going to be successful. You're going to, it was like very much like when you read it, you're like, yeah, okay, okay. But then it's like, okay, that's kind of forgettable. So I flipped it on it because we had the same prompt of like, what do you want to talk about? And it was things like being more confident, being more, what was it? Like more confident, um, like being more aggressive about going after like what you actually want or whatever. So when I wrote my version, it had these like crazy things where it was like, it was funny, but it was like, hey, like I want you to have the unbridled confidence of Lizzo in a string bikini, right? It's like AI is never going to write that. It's just not. But like when you've seen the unbridled confidence of Lizzo in a string bikini, you're like, how do I get that? I want that, right? Like I don't know if you know who Lizzo is, and I don't know if you've seen her in a string bikini. I mean, the woman is like a spirit animal in herself. So where I'm going with that is it's like there's the fact that like you've already forgotten what I said 2 or 3 minutes ago that the AI would have written, but you'll be thinking months from now when you hear a Lizzo song, you'll be like, "Damn it, I remember Jacques saying that unbridled experience." It's like it's like it has this lowest common denominator sort of like um entropy to it. Like that's what AI is sort of doing, is it's like it's giving you the average sum of what someone would expect. And so that's great as a jumping off point, because then it's like, okay, well, now I know at least where to jump off from. But if you expect that to be the thing that makes the breakthroughs, or that cuts through the noise, or helps advance brands and make emotional connections, you're gonna be really, really disappointed. And I think we've all had a conversation, maybe in an interview with somebody, where we they were telling us the things that they thought we wanted to hear, and you walk away from it, it, like you could sense it, and you're just like, I don't even feel like I'm talking to a real person. I feel like I didn't even get to know you because you're just telling me what I want to hear. It's like, oh yeah, I want this job, and my greatest imperfection is the fact that I'm a perfectionist. And it's like, okay, great, I know nothing about you, right? And so I think that in general, as it relates to creative, I think the writing aspect of it, it will create a baseline to jump off of. And I would liken it to the disruption of like a Zillow, when people were able to, for the first time, access homes without a real estate agent or the MLS on their own. It didn't replace real estate agents, but it did change the way that real estate agents work with buyers. It did change the access to the information or the jumping off point. But being truly creative is still very much art meets science. So that's where I come from on it. It's like it doesn't scare me at all. I mean, frankly, it doesn't even scare me for the SEO space. I got a buddy who, um, guy's a genius. I mean, let me tell you how genius this guy is. He started buying URLs with great equity, about 10 months ago, and then he started bringing them to life with a mix of like, so he'll buy these URLs at last, but they have great like equity to them. There's a lot of backlinks and other stuff for SEO reasons. He started using AI written content on the sites to test whether or not it would have an impact on the SEO. And then right around, what would this be? I guess early November last year, all of a sudden, Google just de-indexed all of the content that he had put up there on these sites. So it wasn't on any of his client sites. He had like these pet projects. And I was like, dude, you need to write a white paper on this, because even Google and these AI platforms can sense when something is in fact written in this way. People will always find hacks and workarounds, but you're always just going to be dealing with like, it's always white hat, black hat anyway in SEO. But I just, even with something like that, it's like even AI can recognize AI, and I find that really interesting. It goes back to my Lizzo and the string bikini thing, where it's like AI is just never gonna write that. It's just never gonna write that. They're just not. So I get excited about what it means for the future, because I think truly great work will just continue to stand out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. I've been doing a lot of talking.
No, you're good. Dude,
So,
this is about
oh,
you. But hey,
no, man, no, man. I'm putting you. Hey, you're on the hot seat. So I mean, you're a data guy. You jump into data stuff. Um, what is your take on how your initial like look at AI is impacting the way you think about your craft and your space and your job and all the things?
yeah. Of course it's always limited to um it's always limited. So let's say I use Chat GPT for my work, and I will go, hey, I need this formula to do this, and then I have to give it all the data. Um and it that's the first thing that's wrong with it, is that you have to give it everything exactly that it needs. It can't look at your spreadsheet for you. And so whatever the inputs are, it's limited to what the inputs are for its output. And so that's one problem. But another is like, um, it can't see everything that to course correct. It can't do that super well. So this week I was actually running into my first issues with it, because I was asking it to make certain things, and it couldn't course correct, right? I was like, this isn't working. This isn't working. Okay, I need to actually figure this out, watch some YouTube videos, right? So that's kind of the boots on the ground view. And in a general sense, I would say it's kind of the same thing as self-checkout in grocery stores. You're not really getting rid of a workforce. You're just making that workforce go places that are useful. That's the whole point of technology
Damn.
advancement. So that,
Another good call. It's like that's even better than the MLS thing. I love that. Self checkout is
yeah,
just helping people, yeah, have the experience that they want to have.
right, right. So it sounds like you and I are pretty much in agreement that it's like, it's not breaking anything. It's just opening up new realms of ways we can utilize it. Is that kind of what you believe?
Yeah, and I mean, clearly it will lead to other things that we can't even see, and new discoveries and all the things, right? It's just I think the reality of all of it is that like it will make. So what I love about self checkout's a great example. It's like that's why I love. I mean, when you said that, I was like, damn, I'm gonna steal that, because it's like if you have a shopping cart full of stuff, you do not want to use self checkout. Like if you have truly like $200 worth of groceries, it would be a nightmare to use self checkout. In fact, that would be like a punishment. But when you're holding a handful of like 5 items, it's a godsend, right? And I think that as you look at what we need to do, and the way that it impacts our roles, it's like, okay, great. Like when I'm stuck to figure out what kind of like potential, you know, what's it called, line to write for. I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking about copywriting or anything else. But it's like when I'm looking for inspiration for like what to write for email subject lines or headers or whatever, it's like, oh my gosh, like that's the godsend of that. But when you're talking about crafting the complexity of like how do I make something that's on strategy, but also has the emotional appeal that we're looking for, but also is unexpected and breaks through the noise and stops you in your tracks and separates us from our competition and doesn't make us seem like everyone else. That's your shopping cart full of needs that like you're going to be so glad that you work with somebody that like can actually help you with that load. And so I love that is a great analogy for the shopping experience. Love that.
Yeah, yeah. That's an interesting topic. I just think anytime there's a new innovation, I think I see a lot of people on Twitter going, enough about Chat GPT, because it's like, um, I think people know that the it can only do so much, and there is a future for it, but it can only do so much so that it helps us more and gets us to places we've never been, just like the internet. Like the internet's advanced. That's the pure example. And it's been 20, 30 years now, and it's been amazing. Or it's been more than has it been more than 30 years of the internet?
I've been hearing 30 years thrown around, but
Okay.
here's what I'll say. You and I were talking right now in real time
Yes,
on video. I mean,
exactly.
this is the type of stuff that the Jetsons thought of, and here we are. So, we're not in the metaverse quite yet, but that being said, we are very much talking to each other in real time via the internet. So I
Yeah.
have no idea. I mean, I'm not personally afraid of AI. It doesn't scare me, but I do think that people that expect it to somehow like take over like that full shopping cart experience, I think they are uh at least from my understanding, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I honestly think that part of what people do for one another is also help them to understand, to articulate things that they don't even know they want, but they want, if that makes sense. I'll give you a great example. I mean, I hired a woman named Doreen last year to help me with some of my personal brand work. I was like, I'm going to start making content. I'm going to start speaking again. And I did all those things because she helped me get back on track. One thing she did is she took me shopping for new clothes. She's like, look, part of your new brand is like, you got to dress like the part. And I'm like, okay. And she picked out stuff I would never pick out for myself, but she understood my goals, my strategy. And so it was like, if I had thrown in what I liked into a chat GPT, it would just throw back exactly who I still am or was rather than who I'm aspiring to be. And so I think that's also part of this is like a lot of time, AI can help build a better picture of like summarize and create a better picture of where you are now. I think it will have a hard time taking in that information and truly painting an emotional picture of where you're headed. And I think that in our line of work, creatively and strategically, we need to be 6 months ahead of where are we headed, where are we going. We need to be a year ahead, 2 years ahead, depending on the brand. And so that's where I'm like, man, that's a level of critical thinking that even at this point is 50% art, 50% data. I mean, no one knows the future, so we're kind of fortune telling in the way that we're building communication to be where we need to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I would love to switch gears for the remainder of time. So there's two more things that you wanted to talk about. And um, I would love if maybe you combine them or you picked one. So which one would you like to talk about more? And then maybe you can
Ooh.
bring in the other one. So you
No,
had,
no, no,
yeah,
no,
you,
no, Solomon. It's your show.
no,
You got to
but
talk about.
no. This is you. I want to hear into your brain. So what are you thinking about more? Is it the diversification of channels when it comes to like content strategy? That's what you said, or in-person gatherings, or maybe you put them together. I would love to hear how they
it.
how they work out
They're
together.
honestly, they're not going to work out together. Let's talk about in-person gatherings for
Okay. Yeah.
2023 because I think it's just you know I did a little pit stop. what I loved was I don't know if you're familiar with a guy named Ezra Firestone. He said he stole
Yep.
it from a woman named Molly that he works with. So I have to credit Molly. But he talked about how at the end of a year, he's not big on necessarily New Year's resolutions, and I never have been either. I've always been bothered by the idea of resolutions. So I'm like, if I want to change something about myself, I'm not going to wait for some arbitrary precious moment in time, a strike of a new year. But I also always felt very like almost torn or like pulled at the end of every year and the beginning of New Year. I felt a natural inclination towards like, but I do have some things that I want to change or do differently. And so every year I was also like, why do I feel so frustrated that like I do actually have some sort of resolution, or whether it's a resolution or some sort of like realignment of vision for what I want different for the next year, that kept happening. And he gave this great analogy that it was like a car that's been running a race super fast and then it pulls over into the pit stop and it gets new tires, new oil, literally realignment of the vehicle. And that's totally how it feels like coming out of that like Black Friday period in the line of work that we're in, where it's like, there's like a week or two of just downtime. And the big thing that I was reflecting on was, and this last year, I've actually made some really, really cool new friends that I literally just text with. I mean, whether that's Sean Frank, who's with Ridge, and Connor. I've been chatting with a guy named Ryan. He's with True Earth, and Grant, who originally founded BYLT and some other brands that he's worked with. It's like, there are people now that I text with almost on a every day to daily basis, who I've never met in person. And I think that's the power of the internet and Twitter and podcasting and all the things. And so, but I feel like the opportunity to connect in person allows all of those conversations that you're having, whether it be through Zoom, whether it be through email, it like creates this sort of like bedrock or glue that then allows things to flourish beyond that. And I've seen that with our own team. We're remote as a team, but like when we do our annual get-togethers, I've noticed it with whether I go to a mastermind event or some other event. So my word for this year, my realignment, everything else is around the word intentionality. I really want this year to be an intentional year, where I'm personally investing into connecting with people, whether it's in small get-togethers or at large events. But I think the world's also just craving it, and part of that, I thought this was a stunning statistic, is that aloneness in our country is up 40%, 40% over the last decade. Of course, accelerated by COVID, but you know, I just think that the people that are going like winning, true winning has always been based on relationship and network. They always say like it's who you know, not what you know. And I just feel like this year there's going to be people who invest in relationships, who invest being in person, and for the next decade, it's going to give them the advantage. Like what happens this year, the extra effort being made, the people who make those connections, um, they will just see. That's just my opinion. I mean, who am I to call the future? But I just really believe that this is that moment, and um, in the same way that like people who invested in certain stocks before they really took off, like yeah, they made millions, right? People that invested in Bitcoin when it was $20 a coin, even when it's sitting at $20,000 a coin, they did very well. And so I'm like, we've always known. I think connection is one of those things that currently is, I don't want to say undervalued, but it's got to be. It's not at a 3-year low because it's been barely coming back every year, but it's one of those things that 2 years from now it won't be a too late, but it's just that you'll be 2 years behind building those in-person connections if you can get started now. And so I'm going to be going to a series of events. I'm actually going to be throwing an event. I can't talk about it yet because we're coordinating a couple different things, but it will be the first time that like I've done something that big. Yeah, I'm really excited about what this year will look like or bring. And if you're listening to this and you're ever in San Diego, you want to check out our studio, you want to get together, happy to connect. As long as you're not a mean person, because if you're mean, I don't want to know you. But Solomon, you're always welcome. So, yeah, man. I mean, that's one of my sort of like predictions for this year, that it will be like a big year, that if you can make the extra effort to be in person to meet new people, that it will be much more valuable even than it will be next year.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I wanted to say that 90% of my listeners are mean people. So,
We're screwed. Oh my god.
but so what does I love that you touched on intentionality. What does intentionality look like for you as a person? But I think most people would be interested, most listeners would be interested in hearing how intentionality looks as a business owner.
Mm.
What is that? What are you hoping in that role that you're in? What are you hoping that would bring to your business? How do you see that being a practical thing?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think I'll actually give you this is the conversation we're having today with somebody. I love when I'm having it, like talking to one of the brands we work with that are, doing 150, 250, 350 million dollars in sales, and they're like the best in the game, right? And they're like, but they're still asking this great question, which is like, hey, we're great, but how can we be better? Which I love that question. And one of the things that we realize is that um, when it comes to intentionality, is that what's great right now, especially about vertical channels and meta and everything, is that UGC, user generated content, is working really well. There's a lot of other things that work really well, that are a little bit more like gritty and real, and like, and you need that. That's part of your marketing mix. You should definitely be doing that. It's like saying if you're a football team, you need to have a run game, right? UGC is the run game. You got to do it. The issue with it is it's not it's people talking about your brand. The brand isn't necessarily having a voice in it. They're not necessarily connecting with your value system in it. Like, they're not making you feel necessarily much different about the brand itself. It's just the trusting and listening to the people talking about the brand. And so it's kind of like it is true that there's nothing more powerful than other people talking about you, right? But then there is so it's like, imagine that you'd never met me, Solomon. It's like, and you've met 10 people that talk about me. You'd be like, oh, this Jacques guy seems like he'd be pretty cool, right? But you feel nothing towards me because you don't really actually know me. And then you actually talk to me, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I've heard a lot of things, but now I actually have this direct connection. And I think some brands risk losing their intentionality with their audience and their community because they're allowing too many other people to tell their story, right? They don't actually own the story. Everyone else is talking about them. They're actually almost like a mystery. Like, their brand becomes something where it's like, well, actually, I don't really know much about your brand. I just know what everyone else has to say. I know what the UGC has to say. I know what the influencers have to say. I know what the affiliates have to say, but they don't actually have the intentionality of like, no, this is who I am, and this is what I have to say, and this is how I want you to feel when interacting with me. And so I think the best brands they always have done a great job of like owning that and providing opportunity for people to talk about them. And then as a business owner, I mean, it's going to sound cheesy, but it's like, I want to have more coffees and lunches this year. I want to have more conversations like this that are just one on one, like people having a good time. I mean, this is so valuable, you and I connecting, even if no one ever listens to this. We're just enjoying each other's company and each other's brains. You asking me mostly questions, and then you giving me a new analogy to use around AI. So, but you get the point. I think that's what intentionality looks like to me. Um, as a business owner, but also as driving brands. That's how I would attach that word for not only this year but any year.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. That's great. And then in-person gatherings, when it comes to I we to bring that back to the AI chat, it's one of those things that I think is, AI will keep getting better, but it's one of the things that will not go away is in person. And um, you know, what do you think about how much of your company is remote?
Yeah, I mean, we are. I mean, technically, right? No one's required to be in an office. We do
Mhm.
have our photography team and our video team, and it's like there's a reality that you have to be on set for those
Right.
things. So I think we're probably 50% remote, whereas like you could live anywhere and
Yeah.
technically do your job. And then we're 50% like, no, you need to live in San Diego because you're gonna be on set Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a good way to describe the way we're oriented. But yeah, I mean we're certainly highly remote. You know,
Yeah.
we've only had in the last 2 years, we've only had two full in person gatherings, and they've both been very life giving and create a lot of connection.
Yeah. I'm about to go in an in-person gathering for the Ridge next week. So that'll be fun. By the time this comes
Ooh,
out, I'll be back. But yeah, the value of being in person, I don't think will ever go away. And it's something that I've been working remote for 5, going on 6 years now. And it's like it gets lonely. It gets lonely.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
am not surprised. One of the things that I tweeted it a while ago, and I drew the connection between technology and loneliness, and
mm,
that the more technology we get, the more reliant we are on entertainment that's right in front of our eyes. And instead of being entertained by our company, we're now entertained by a phone that's always in our
mm,
pocket. And
yeah,
now we find ourselves without people and
right.
just this phone. And so yeah, I fully believe that. We got to close out here in just a bit. Do you have anything else to add about anything that we've talked about? It's been awesome.
I mean, you know, I don't think so. The answer would be yes and no. I have too much going on in my brain to make sense of anything right now. But I will say this. I think that, um, you know, I think there's a really it's an interesting moment in time because I think about like anyone who's listening to this podcast at this point in the conversation, right? Which I don't know how many it's going to be. Maybe it's going to be hundreds, thousands, tens. I don't know. Maybe tens of thousands or just tens of people. My mom and your wife. Bottom line is that if people made it this far in the conversation, it's like it's it's a reminder of two things. One is they are certainly the type of person who is constantly looking like hungry to better themselves if they're at this point in the conversation, right? Like they're interested in what people are thinking about and saying. They're, I'm sure, having their own thoughts and reactions to what we've been talking about in the conversation. Um, but I also think that there's a reality that if they listen to it, you know, they probably were doing so alone. And they were doing so in a way like when I listen to podcasts where, you know, it feels like a much better use of time than maybe watching a TV show or something. You know, it feels a little bit more um, life giving and a little bit more educational and whatever. But I would also just say, hey, like, you know, if you were to take something away from this conversation, it's that the opportunity then is to go and connect this year and get outside of listening to the podcast. Glad to listen, but like I feel like it's so easy to your point to fall into a rhythm of that alone time, aloneness. I don't think people are necessarily more unhappy. I just think that it's easier than ever to be alone because you have podcasts and you have all these things. And so congratulations on making it to the end of this podcast. But also, can't wait to see you at an event this year.
That's perfect. Thanks for drawing that conclusion because it's like it's something we might think, but it's never out in the open. Is that,
Yeah.
oh, I'm listening to a podcast alone. Yeah, it feels good, but I'm
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm alone. You know, hot takes and cool guys out.
Yes. Perfect. All right. All right, Jacques, where can people find you? So I know you've got a podcast. You want to plug
I do.
that? What else do you want to plug?
Yes.
Do it all.
If you've enjoyed this, definitely check out Marketing People Love. I'm also very active on LinkedIn and I'm trying to be more active on Twitter. I'm just not snarky enough for the platform. And I don't like to like generally pick fights with people, but I am there. So Twitter, TikTok, I'm very active on TikTok. I'm just all over the internet. I live on the internet. So if you want to find me, I'm on the internet. But I'm also in live at these events. I'm like, find me on the internet, but events. No, I'm just kidding. Um, yeah, no, it's gonna be fun. But definitely, if you liked this, let me know, because it's always nice when someone listens and they're like, "Hey, I like that," and you're like, "Thank you for listening for 40 minutes. I can't believe you do that for me."
Yeah. Let them know. Let them know. All right. Thanks so much for hopping on. It's been awesome.
Thanks, man. It's been fun.
If you like this video, subscribe. That will make sure that upcoming videos pop up into your feed, because you know how YouTube works. So you want to make sure that this actually pops up, you know? And then the second thing after you subscribe is follow me on Twitter. That's where I'm sharing things that I'm learning, and then who else I'm going to talk to next. So stay tuned for the next video.